Rutgers Scarlet Knights fans, welcome to another episode of Night Watch. I'm your host, Larry K. Night Watch is part of the College Huddle Content Creators College Network, and I'm happy to be a part of that. This is a Sunday casual video with my casual Rutgers gear on. We're just touching on, hey, we just had a first scrimmage of the spring practice this past Saturday. Coach Greg Schiano took to the podium to give some of his thoughts on what's going on, the state of spring practice, the state of the scrimmage, the state of the program. Now, being a lawyer by day, one of the things I have to do is pick up on, context clues, read between the lines, the way people are generally presenting to you in conferences. And I thought it would be fun to give some of my impressions and things that stood out to me from Greg Schiano's press conference yesterday. Hey, I picked up last year, this is the first thing I noticed, picked up last year that Greg had gone overall contextually from his approach to really looking at the team and describing the team, and every chosen word and comment he made about the team really being, hey, we are at the very, very early stages of a developmental program. Whereas last year I picked up in the preseason, Greg's general demeanor and energy seemed much more like, hey, we've got a pretty decent team here. We're ready to take a step here and go out in the field and compete. And, that's one of the reasons I predicted the 6-6 record, and the bowl win last year was right about that. This year I'm picking up on the same energy, but even more of a confidence that Coach Schiano was exuding. And it's not like Coach Schiano doesn't consistently exude confidence as a person. That's not what I mean. He seems to be, exuding a very calm, matter-of-fact confidence that's even a step up from last year. I don't see this general flustering on his face and his voice after the scrimmage as if there was a ton of things that needed to get cleaned up. It seemed much more like we are progressing. We're doing what we thought we would be doing, where we are where we thought we'd be. And that's great to kind of see from him. First thing is, when asked about quarterback play, Greg said, look, it was pretty smooth, he said. We had a couple passes that we missed where the defense didn't capitalize, could have been interceptions, but it went pretty smoothly, all things considered. Hey, we have to get used to when the, headset gets cut off inside of 15 seconds. These guys aren't going to have us in their ears. So obviously when you're able to talk, things are going to go smoother, but he did say it went smooth. He specifically mentioned that two guys had been in the system. This is their second year, so he would expect it to go smooth. Obviously, he's referencing Gavin Wimsett. I wasn't sure if he was referencing Callie Ekmanis since he'd been in Coach Shiraka's system for 2 years, or if he was talking about a Johnny Shepard who had been at Rutgers, now going on his second year. Either way, if guys had plateaued, if guys were still rusty, I think you would have heard that from Greg. It seems like guys were smooth, which means they know the system. They're running through things probably better than they were at this time last year, which is a great sign overall. It's a deep room. He said he's looking forward to the competition. I'm looking forward to the competition. Competition in the quarterback room rises all ships. It's a good thing to have for the program. Whoever emerges from that quarterback competition as the starter, it's going to be better for the program because they earned it in every way possible. Second thing I noticed, that class that we had a few years ago that was so vaunted, where unfortunately we lost Jacob Allen, we lost some guys to medical retirements, we lost some guys for other reasons, that class that was really supposed to help to get Rutgers over the hump, we've had a lot of tough breaks in that class. And Moses Walker, who suffered the ACL injury in 2022, we were wondering what's going to happen. This kid was so highly touted, if you remember his recruitment, highly touted 4-star linebacker, spurned Penn State for Rutgers. Really a lot of stuff going on around that. So much fanfare with him coming into the program. Was he going to be one of the shining people from that class? Well, today, Greg Schiano said Moses Walker is looking like a guy who's developing a lot. He's on the field. We like what we're seeing from him. So it looks like Moses Walker is going to be in the mix there in the linebacker core. That's great to see. You got Mo Toure, who Schiano also mentioned specifically. You got Tyreen Powell, who's going to be coming off of 2 injuries this season. So it's great to hear that Moses Walker's in the mix. That was great to hear. I thought that was something, to take home and really put in the back of your mind as a good sign for the season and for the development of the program and that class in general. He mentioned specifically, and one of the first people he mentioned when he was talking about the secondary as guys who are, not necessarily entrenched as the starters, but guys who would be next man up, who would rotate in. He specifically mentioned Al-Shadi Salam. known as Shorty on the team. A guy who came in, had the winning run against Boston College, was playing running back, was known as an explosive player, but also played some defense in his career. He got switched to corner last year as the running back room got really, crowded. And Schiano's sitting there saying, look, he's really quick, he's really athletic, and we like what he's doing. He mentioned him first as maybe going to be the third cornerback here, which I think is a great sign. If you could take a athlete who you recruited, who you believe in, who's explosive, who's done good things for the team, and you can put him in a position where you could better utilize him, and he's making an impact, I think that's great. So the defense and the depth is looking great. He also mentioned Jameer Wright-Collins in the linebacking core. We're getting deeper and deeper, folks, and I've noticed that from Greg's commentary. Some concerning things. It looks like Robert Longerbeam and Kyle Monungai are a little dinged up. They might be shut down, looks like, for the rest of the spring, but they are fully expected to be back for summer camp. You never know with these things. There could be setbacks. There could be other issues, but luckily we have some depth. Another thing that jumped out to me regarding Schiano's press conference, when he talked specifically about the wide receiver core, he mentioned, look, we have a steady presence. It's almost like, we're getting 2 transfers in because Brantley is now cleared to play, and we're getting Dymere Miller in from the transfer portal, who was a leading receiver a level down. So now you've got Brantley and Miller coming in, and it's like we got a kind of a windfall of riches this offseason, and those guys working in is great. And then he mentioned, you have a lot of young guys, and it's a deep room. And remember, we have Duff coming in. We still had Braithwaite, who was a touted prospect. Don't forget Ian Strong, who made an impact last year. And then Chris Long, he said. Chris Long coming back, he barely played last year, is like another addition to the wide receiver room. So Greg seems quite confident in his wide receiver core. He seems quite confident in his running back room. But here's the other thing that I noticed. The final thing I noticed about Schiano's press conference, which really jumped out to me, and it was subtle. It was a subtle little thing he said. But he said, if we were to go right now, barring injuries or other issues, I would know who our starting 5 offensive linemen were. And guys, that's huge. Because the first few years we're rotating offensive linemen. Last couple years, there's competitions going on. We're not sure who it is. We're not sure who's going to fill in, who's holding their own, on which side, who's going to play where, who's really standing out. And the offensive line has improved, especially last year. But there's still been some struggles. There's still been some depth issues. I don't expect us to have the most stellar offensive line in the Big Ten this year. But the fact that they improved so vastly last year, we had a great rushing attack. And now the fact that Greg, as early as the first scrimmage of spring ball, is saying, I would know who our starting 5 is right now. I have a pretty good idea. Guys, that's huge. While somewhat buried in the minutia of the press conference, to me, that is one of the biggest things Coach Schiano said. That he would know who the starting 5 are. He has a good idea of it if the season were to start today. That's huge. Huge. Because that means that guys have set themselves apart, and he's confident in the guys he has, and of those guys being the ones. That means that this offense, given the maturity of the quarterback situation, given the enhancement of the depth of the room and the increased competition, given the wide receiver depth, and now you're telling me that you know who the offensive linemen are this early, that bodes well for a step forward this season for this program. Not to mention all the things we talked about on defense. And this was a short press conference. It was a scrimmage we didn't get much info from. It's the first scrimmage. We'll see how things progress. As always, you got to cross your fingers. You got to knock on wood that we don't have any catastrophic injuries. Nothing like that happens, because that could change the way things are looking. But for now, I thought I got a lot of positive. I gleaned a lot of positive things from that press conference, and I think some of the things are really interesting. If you hone in and focus on them and see what you can get from them. Guys, if you haven't done so yet, we still are trying to get to 500 subscribers before the start of this football season. Please click subscribe right here. Hit that subscribe button. Takes a second. I'll wait for you to click it right now. Just thank you for clicking. and get us to 500 subscribers. The ultimate goal is 1,000, and we grow from there. But we've grown quite a bit so far, and it's greatly helpful when you become a subscriber. I can continue to bring you more and more content, and I will continue to bring you more written content on the College Huddle, also with the support I get from here. So it just does a lot, and it helps me to bring you more Rutgers content. And who doesn't want more Rutgers Scarlet Knights content? Of course, all of us. So next presser, next batch of news, I'll be with you guys. Until then, go RU, and Larry K is out.